All right. Hello, folks, and welcome to LeaderSite. Welcome to Thompson Leadership. I'm Eric Thompson, and this show is designed to be a fascinating conversation for people who find the art of leadership challenging and very, very interesting, like me. And hopefully we'll provide a little bit of insight, some foresight, and maybe even some 2020 hindsight. I'm delighted today to have as my guest Marion Auld, who is the clinical director of the Endoscopy Center of Santa Rosa. And Marion is someone who I spent a lot of time working with some years ago in her company there, Sutter, and the surgery center business that they run. And somebody who did very inspiring thinking about her leadership, grew a lot upon an already very strong game, in my opinion. And she's an entrepreneur. She and her husband, who's a surgeon, started a surgery center and eventually sold it, and they're still running it. And it's grown. And Marion has an MBA, as well as being a senior surgical nurse and a major nurse leader. So, Marion, how many surgeons and how many nurses do you have at your center?
All right. I would say we're a large center. We have 8 operating rooms. We probably have about 100 surgeons on our credentialed staff.
Mm-hmm.
We probably have about 41 who use the surgery center on a pretty much weekly basis. And staffing, we have about 100 staff.
How many patients come in and out a week?
So I just want to say that yesterday was a really big day for us.
Okay.
A year ago in June, we opened up full time because we had been, because of COVID, on a part-time schedule. And yesterday we had the most patients we've had in a year. And yesterday we saw 83 patients.
And that's a typical day when you guys are full.
That is a high day for us. A typical day would be about 54 patients per day. 250
a week.
Yes.
That's a lot of patients per year, Marion, for a number of years.
It's a lot.
You're moving people in and out. You're strengthening health. You're making people live longer. A lot of moving targets, a lot of risk, a lot of personalities. Am I right?
Yes, all of that.
Marion, you seem to manage to do it with a smile on your face.
If I can't do it with a smile on my face, I don't want to do it.
Thank you so much for coming and talking with me.
I appreciate it. I owe you a lot, and this is a payback, a favor.
That's very nice. I want to hear you talk a little bit later some about the course and what we did, but we won't start there. And also, I'm just going to mention this, that Marion has an interesting wrinkle in her amazing story, which is that she lost her home and almost all her possessions in the California fires, as I mentioned on some of the publicity for this. So at the end, and I remember some amazing emails you sent me after that happened. So we're going to hear some about resilience and lessons from loss before we're done with our first half hour. I'm going to just give you guys on the call, thank you for being here with us, a little orientation. That's me with the Sutter Surgery Center team a few years ago during our Leading by Managing Self course journey. And that's what Marion's house looked like before the fire. Just wanted to show you that we've got an event coming up in July with Mary Powell, who's an extraordinary leader in Vermont. I'll say a little bit more about that later. So, Marion, I gotta, hold on. Just bear with me one sec here. Stop share. Are you still seeing the slide?
I am. No, I see you. I see.
No, the slide's gone.
Slide's gone. Thank you, Craig. So we have a great small group with us here today, Marion. A bunch of the people on this are from different places all over the country, many of whom have gone through the same course as you, so you're among friends. and recording it. And what I find is a lot of our views happen afterwards. So we'll put some things down here on record about Marion Auld and what she's learned on her journey. How long have you been running surgery center teams?
15 years, a little over 15 years.
So I'm going to make the first question real broad.
All right.
What are the keys to success in running a great surgery center team?
Okay, I've been thinking about this a lot. I have to say, I just kind of function in my environment. And I really, after you asked me to do this talk, I had to go back and I have to really say, okay, what do? I have a great team. How did I get that team? So for me, and I'm going to say for everybody, it's different. And for every team I have, they're all different and I treat them all differently and I have different skills. So I don't really have one set of skills, but I know one thing about myself. If I'm going to hire somebody to be on my team, I need them to be strong and I need them to have direct communication because my style is very direct. And I can't have somebody that gets offended by that and I'm feeling, oh, that person didn't speak up. I'm kind of overpowering them. So I tend to attract people like myself to my team. And I like to have that open, direct communication where we can have conflicts and then the next day we come in and apologize. So I like that type of activity. I don't want to feel like it's me running the show. I want to have people who challenge me to come back. And that kind of helps me function.
Do you test that?
Well, I can usually tell in an interview, you try to go on instinct. Yeah, do I make mistakes? Yes, I've made mistakes all along. And I would have to say this is the best team I've ever had, what I have now.
Yeah.
This is a mature team. They give me a lot of feedback. They let me know how I'm doing. And I really like that. And this is also a team of people that I've really seen help grow and develop over the last couple of years. And we have different skills. We might all be strong and have good communication skills, but we all have different personalities and we bring different things to the table. But for me, if I look at this in the whole part, the one thing I bring to every team is something that I learned in your management program, was that I need to self-manage myself. And I need to be calm and I need to be clear thinking. So whatever team I have to bring those skills to the table. And that has been, I would say, the most important thing to me that I learned and I use in the last 5 to 6 years. And through all that I've been through in my work and my personal life, I go back to that. I need to be able to self-reflect, to think clearly, and it seems to help throughout everything I've been through in the last 4 years.
It's such a simple principle that I'm so grateful that I ran into it, this Bowen leadership theory. It's so powerful and it's wonderful to hear you say that. I want to get back to one little thing. You said you go on instinct in the hiring process of hiring for people who can handle you and handle direct communication, because surgery center is an intense place. Things can get intense. Docs, nurses, people can be intense with each other. What's that instinct? What do you mean you go on instinct? What kind of instinct are you using when you determine the strength of a candidate?
Well, can they speak their mind? Are they not afraid? Do they have courage? Because those are all the things that I want to promote. And sometimes in this team, I did not get to pick everybody that's on the team. And I've had to help people develop courage and learn to speak up. And I want them to speak direct and clearly. I don't want to be like, I have to fish around to figure out what it is, but I have to do that. But my goal is for people to be able to come in and speak clearly and tell me what the issues are, and then we can sit down and address them. And I've had to learn patience. I don't have a lot of patience. But I would say I have to have patience when people don't have that skill, to work with them and to help them develop that skill.
How do you do that? So you mentioned patience, but you're also talking about very direct communication, that you've had to bring some people along. I'm gathering this is something you've done a few times, Marion. Am I right?
Well, my direct communication is just who I am. And when people would say to me when I was younger, you're so direct, I'd be like, I am, but I'm just speaking the truth or whatever I felt.
Does
So
this have something to do with being from Brooklyn?
I'm really from the Bronx.
Even more so.
Yes. So I would say maybe from that, but it's just who I am. So I have to learn, sometimes to filter it, sometimes not. But I have to realize that my natural style is in a very direct way. And so you either come to like it and work with it, which the people I work with now that have a lot of experience in the work field, they love it. People will say, I love your style. And for other people, we need to, that managers that we hear, I need to work with them to say, come on, you need to tell me. Speak clearly. Let me know. Don't send me long emails. I want things in bullets. You need to come to me with clear thinking and be able to communicate. Because I feel that really helps through all that we've been through in dealing with our employees, that we just speak very plain and very clearly.
Yeah. So I'm apologizing for this feedback. Is the sound quality kind of there? It got a little better. I don't know what's going on with that. It's not something I usually experience. All right. Can you tell me more about this self-management journey? You
Yes.
said it was a really big deal to learn that. What are you talking about? What kinds of managing of yourself have been highly productive for you?
All right. So I'm going to go back to when we started the management class and we brought in our family and our work relationships. So what I realized that I had some skills that I really did well at home, and I had some skills I really did well at the workplace, but they weren't combined. For an example, I was very good at setting boundaries with my children at home. I was not so good at setting boundaries with employees at work. So I've realized that I had these differences. And after I went through the program with you, I developed a calmness within myself. And when I look back over this, is that I've realized I've joined those two together. I'm not one person at home anymore and a different person at work. I'm one person. So what has happened is I used to be more calm at work and probably a little more stressed out at home. Maybe I bring it home. I feel like my stress level is the same at work and home. And I feel like the same boundaries I might do with my children are the same boundaries. I have the courage to do those same boundaries in the workplace. So to me, it's becoming like a bringing together almost of my strengths, and they became stronger when I brought them together. But I was not aware this was going on, but I just could feel that I was a calmer person. And then I've kind of figured out, you know what, you kind of join these two together. I don't know if I was very consciously aware that I was even two different people. But I have to say, a lot of this came through with the class discussions, but learning TM was a big change for me.
Okay, let's talk about transcendental.
Yeah.
What has been your journey with that? So in this case, with the Sutter group, we offered the training in transcendental meditation to the team as a part of the leadership development process, and Marion was one of the people who wanted to try it. So let's talk about that.
Yes, I was really excited. I always wanted to meditate, but I was kind of just never found the time to do it. I was a busy person, and I started it, and I really found that it made a big difference in my life. I found, and this is kind of funny, that I found that when I did it, I felt like my head exploded. It became bigger, like I had more room in it. So it decreased my anxiety, and it allowed me to feel like I had more room in my brain and my head to handle more things. And so that was just huge for me, huge. My anxiety decreased. I became much calmer. I became much more able to manage my emotions. And this is a funny thing, you have your little mantra, but if I get stressed out at work now, and I just say that mantra like 4 or 5 times, whatever it does, it brings me down to a place. I don't even have to do the 20 minutes if I'm stressed. Uh-oh. Just saying that, I lost you on my screen.
Earthquakes in California.
Hold on. My screen timed out. I got to come back. Okay, sorry.
We can see you. Yeah. Marion, would you just tilt your screen like you did before so we see more of you?
Sure. Good. Perfect.
So can I ask you, Here's a simple little thing. Now you're saying making some very big statements about the impact this has had on you. And you might remind me of a term, inner spaciousness, which is one of the predictions about what accessing an inner silent space on a regular basis during meditation would create, is an increased inner spaciousness. Is that term resonating with you and what you said?
Here, it's probably a better term to use than the term
You
that I
said
use.
spaciousness.
Yes. And that is mind expanding.
How do you understand that this simple practice of just, effortlessly letting your thoughts settle down can do that?
Okay. I think that for me, just going to that place where you're calm and letting whatever is on your mind settle down, and through the meditation, it just gives you a clearer look of things. You're just settling yourself down, and for me, it really works really well. I mean, I am so much less anxious than I ever was before in my life.
Love
And
it.
that just feels so good. And I will say, I probably have been through the four most stressful years of my life.
Yeah. So we're going to a second here. I want to follow up on one more thing you said. So I was talking to one of my mentors recently, a very wise guy. He's a scientist, and he studies higher stages of human development. And he said, yeah, what he's seeing in the research he's doing is that growth of higher stages of human development is just being more of yourself. He said you were always there, but now there's more of you there. And when you said that about less of a dividing line between Marion at home, Marion at work, and maybe it's less stressful to just be you more fully at work. What do you think about that?
I think it is. I think it's almost like a self-actualization on some level. You come to accept the person you are. You learn to manage your emotions so they don't get in the way of your thinking. And you get to be that person. And it's very comforting in a lot of ways. And you have courage sometimes, and sometimes you're vulnerable, but you're comfortable with those feelings. And those feelings are not managing you. You're managing those feelings. That is a big part of this.
Mm.
And I would say, for all that we've been through here at work, staying calm has been the most important thing for me. I think that's the best thing that I could bring to this job and to this organization. Because you're right, it is very stressful.
So when you're talking about COVID, and I think you're also talking about the fires, am I right?
Yes.
So I'm going to show this now. This is this one of the Sutter Surgery Center teams, and some wonderful leaders here, Marion's colleagues, including Rusty Marsh, is on this call. Hi, Rusty. In this picture, showing the fun we have during this year-long journey. So here's the before picture. And then here's after. So when was this? What year was this, Marion?
2017.
2017. So it looks like you lost the whole house.
Yes, everything. I not only lost my house, we lost our neighborhood, we lost our community. I mean, 6,000 houses burned in, 6 hours. So you just don't lose that. You lose that whole sense of where you lived and what you had. Oh, and that little mark, you see that on the right picture, you see that little melting? I think that's like the tire from one of our cars, or an engine melt or something. It was so hot up there.
Okay, so that's ground looking at it.
Yeah.
So Marion, what an extraordinary thing to go through. And then, now you've had COVID. So what'd you learn from it, Marion?
Okay, I learned an interesting thing. I think that this year in COVID was much more difficult than the year losing my house, which I still get emotional about. It is a very deep loss. But the year I lost my house, I was surrounded by community. Everybody at work was so kind to me. People, you have nothing. I mean, you don't have any clothes. People brought me in clothes, people went shopping for me, people gave me things. There was just a lot of community and an outpouring of like love and support.
Were you surprised by the demand?
Yes. And you know what? I think that I learned that I was not as good or as kind as these other people. When people come out, they were just wonderful. And it taught me how to react when things happen to other people.
Mm.
So that was wonderful. And I worked through that. And, you know, we had I would say about 30 physicians in our facility lost their homes. We had another employee. So we went through that experience. But I would say COVID was a more difficult experience. COVID as managing was much more difficult because we didn't have a sense of community. We were very isolated. People weren't kind in giving to you. There was a lot of anger, and there was anger in the workplace. As we saw, there was anger in the United States when we look at everything that happened last summer. So we had to deal with a lot of anger this year. You know, physicians are angry because the center's closed. Anesthesiologists don't like the way that we're seeing our patients. They don't agree with our infection control measures. Staff are angry because they have to be here and they really want to be home with their children. And we can never communicate enough and to the staff and everybody on all the changes that are going through. So I would say this year was extremely difficult.
So, Marion, what'd you learn from that journey?
From this journey, I would have to say that about a month, I would say the beginning of this year, I really felt like I burned out. I felt like we were tired, but you just have to keep going. You have to dig deep. But I did learn that I cannot function in this workplace as a leader of this organization and be in that mental state. So I did have to say, I have to recharge. So I had to figure out, how am I going to recharge, self-reflect, and come back in and stay calm. And this was my big challenge this year. This was really hard for me. So I had not been meditating on a regular basis. I went back to meditating on a regular basis, started to take more time off from work, and that really helped. And then we had to encourage our managers. I would say all of us worked through COVID full-time or more and never took any time off. And that was probably a mistake, but now we had to really tell people, you have to take time off. And you have to lead that. I can't tell them to take time off, and I'm here all the time. So really leading that, and then really setting boundaries with, you need to take a week off. We need to recharge. Because as managers, we cannot be that anxiety. You can see it. We cannot be anxious and lead the center. And that's easier said than done. These are not easy.
Especially with anger coming at you.
Yes, plus you have a lot of, we all know healthcare is struggling right now. We've had decreased people coming in. We get paid for reimbursement. And so revenue is down, and, you do have to meet certain criteria. People, we need to bring our numbers up. We need to see certain amount of people, we're looking at hiring, what we can do, work more efficiency. But this is a hard time. People are stressed at work. A lot of people, I don't know how these parents do it. I'm so impressed with them. All of this staff managing homeschooling, coming to work every day, extra costs. Schools aren't there. They have to pay daycare. It has really put a real big burden on the staff. And this is not a time you can push people. We have to come together, and we have to realize who we are. Yes, we want to increase our numbers, but we have to have compassion now till we move out of this. And the staff has to know that we're compassionate towards them. We have to keep and develop that trust. And I would say that's where I'm right now. I need to go out and be more compassionate, and I need to build more trust with my staff.
I want to ask you something. You've told me before that you've had some extraordinary leaders over your time in this journey. And, some of these things you're talking about, the lifelong learning, the ability to be a team builder where you're developing people. What do you think the people who you've worked for, the people who managed, a whole portfolio of centers, what's some of the best things they've done to put you in a position to have the kind of success you've had?
Well, I think taking the class that we had with you, I think was huge. It gave me this, it really helped cement my skills. I had leadership classes, but this is where I could bring it all together. I think that has been very helpful. I think working with people who are not anxious. So when you call them and you have an issue where they call you, there's no anxiety. You know this is just going to be a good conversation. And if you make a mistake and things don't go well, they treat you with compassion. They're not giving you, holding you on the carpet for this. They're like, okay, let's look at the situation. So I feel for me, that has been the best thing, is working with people who are calm, understand this business, and when things aren't going well, come to support you. Okay, how can we help you? Like, that would be the biggest thing I find within this Sutter environment. People are like, okay, what can we do to help you get through this? So I have a very supportive administrators and group of people that I work with.
Recently, you talked to me about fun. You
Yes.
said that the best managers you've had have instilled a sense of fun. Can you say something about that? How do they do it?
All right. So here's my thing. To be working at this point, I'm driven by an inner goal, and that I use all the time. When I came back to work and I took over this center, my goal was to create an environment where people would have fun, come to work, do their job, work really hard, have high quality, because people get self-satisfaction from that, and then go home and be with their families. And I wanted to minimize those irritations at work that that people take home and say, this employee's this and that, all of that kind of underlying low level immature behavior. So this has been my goal. And when I have to make decisions, I stay focused on this. This is what I want. And it takes me to places that we are very proactive on monitoring people's behavior. If we see somebody demonstrating immature behaviors, which might be gossiping, talking, we pull those people in right away. We talk to them. We try to coach them. And the most important thing we explain to them is people don't understand the influence their behavior has in the workplace. People don't connect that when I gossip and I say those negative things, that it's influencing everybody in the room. And that is the big focus we try to say, rather than saying, don't gossip, don't do this, because nobody wants to be told what to do, especially adults. We try to explain the impact that that behavior has, because don't all of us want to come to work and just have fun and enjoy the day and go home? So that is an overriding theme that I would say personally, that's my personal goal, is to create a happy workplace. And we even have a fun committee that meets monthly and comes up with fun things to do. And they had a very important role during COVID, because we used to bring in a lot of food. Our activities would be very food related, but we couldn't share food during COVID. No sharing of food. So everybody has to bring their own lunch. We all have to eat in little cubicles. So what could we do? So we might have like beans in a jar, and you have to guess how many beans are in the jar. Try to do activities more like that. For example, on St. Patrick's Day, we hide leprechauns. This is the tradition we have, little leprechaun dolls, and people find them and you get a prize. So we tried to come up with different ways to create fun in the workplace.
How about when you think about the people who've led you, what have they done that made it easier for you to have fun at work?
I think they have fun at work. And, they demonstrate that. When you go to a conference or something, or you're with them, they create a fun environment. And they encourage people to communicate and relax and enjoy one another, because that's how we enjoy each other at work.
Marion, you said something very powerful, that you've never had a team that's so strong as this one. What are the characteristics of an exceptional team? You've had many teams. You've been on many teams. You've got the best one ever now. What's it like?
It feels great. And you know what? This team told me something. I sometimes think I'm a micromanager, and I didn't know. This is the way I function. It's like, am I being direct? Am I micromanaging? But they tell me, they'll say, we like working for you because you don't micromanage us. So that's how you know you're not micromanaging, because I sometimes think I am micromanaging them. And so I guess I'm not. And some days I wish I did micromanage them a little bit more when they kind of do things. So it's like, oh, when they make those little mistakes, oh, well, okay. So I see that, you know, give people the opportunity to be who they want to be, like I'm feeling. And we do make mistakes. And then, you know, forgive them, forgive yourself, and, you know, have the courage just to move on. And I think these are just things, even in my family, these are the same values in my marriage that I have. And I'll be married 40 years this year is, you know, forgive yourself, forgive others, have courage to do the right thing, and self-reflect. I mean, those are the things, and I set them backwards. I do think the first one is you need to self-reflect first. You need to self-reflect and then figure out where you want to have courage and where you want to be, you know, forgiving yourself. And that's, you know, that's that whole balance of who you are and how you want to be perceived and live your life. You know, I want to live a fulfilled life. And I have to say, this job is very fulfilling to me. And I've kind of feel like I found my vocation, which it was weird. I didn't get to this place till I was in my 60s. Who, you know, you think I'm on to another path, but in my 60s, I got this job and it has been extremely fulfilling to me. And this is what I feel I was meant to do. That's why it's very comfortable for me. And it just brings all my skills together and I'm able to create this, I feel, a really positive workplace.
Yeah, I think that is a wonderful thing that many younger leaders can look forward to, because I've seen this, that a lot of people say these kinds of things at your stage of a career, that, you know, that they like it better than ever, they're more fully themselves, and that if they feel they really found like themselves in their job more fully. I love hearing about that. And I want to celebrate the long marriage, Marion. Anybody who can pull that kind of thing off deserves a big hand in this world where so many of them don't, so many of them go down. So that's awesome.
Yeah, it's not easy. It's work. You do it. But, and I have a great marriage. And I would have to say that in the last, you would think, I always used to think this, oh, by 30 years, you have it down. But I would have to say the last 3 or 4 years, with all the challenges, my husband retiring, us losing our home, were probably the most challenging.
For the marriage.
Yes. Yes. The marriage. So work was actually my stable part. And my home life was the one, okay, we're all like, we're kind of shaky here. We got to figure this out. I mean, we've moved 4 times in the last 3 years. We've now settled into a house, but that was not a lifestyle that we were used to.
Yeah.
And during this period, to just people know, we had the fire in 17. 18 we survived, but we've had power outages, we've had other fires. So you're constantly, we have evacuated every year in the last 3 years. So that gets stressful after a while.
Well, especially when it's on the heels of losing everything.
Right.
Marion,
So
most people don't go through the experience of losing everything. What is it that you know, because you went through that maybe some of us who've never been through that don't get or fully realize?
Well, I think everybody deals with differently. My personal journey has been that it's all gone and I don't really want all that stuff anymore. You know, I'm living, we finally bought a house this summer and we're living in it. And it looks like we moved in yesterday. I'm having, you know, I'm struggling to go out and buy things. Of course, I have COVID as an excuse. Stores aren't really open, but I don't have an attachment to all those things anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a sadness because some things in your house bring you great joy. They were great. I love certain things in my house. So learning to have to find those, but you just can't go out and buy those. Those things you accumulated over a lifetime. So that is hard. And now I'm a minimalist. And I'm like, okay, maybe this is the way I'll be for the rest of my life. Like, I don't want all that clutter. I'm very careful about where I go from this.
I think people don't fully appreciate the value of spaciousness from stuff. It accumulates and you don't even know it's happening.
Right.
What's the most precious object that you lost?
Oh, so many. I mean, so many. I have no pictures of my children when they were little, really.
Mhm.
So that's a huge loss. To me, all those vacations and trips you had. And then, of course, we had little videos. We don't have any of that. So there is a part of you that you lose in the process. And for me, what I learned during this, going through this as a community, I was never somebody who lived in the past. I'm a forward think. I'm always looking at the future, which has its good and bads. But people who focused on the past, this losing their house was much more difficult for them than it was for me, just on how our minds work. My mind, I see, just moves forward. I don't have a good memory of the past. So probably losing those pictures was a big loss. But yeah, you lose those things from my parents that I had, items that were in my home, little things that would remind me of them. They're just not there. But
Story helps us to just think about something that is very important, which is what really matters. So thank you for sharing it and these other points of wisdom. So our tradition on this Leader Site show is to give people, 7, 8, 9 minutes to talk some together in small groups. And we're going to do that now and just talk about what this is, what Marion's story has got you thinking about. What questions has it raised? What fascinations does it stimulate for you? So I'm going to use the Zoom function to set that breakup room out now. And you can chat together in groups of 3. And then in about less than 10 minutes, people will come back and we'll have a little bit of a few minutes for people to interact with you and ask you questions, Marion.
All right. Thank you.
And session. So, hello, folks. We have just a few more minutes to chat. What are you thinking about? What was stirred in the discussions you were having or listening to Marion?
You muted me. Rebecca and I were in the same group, and we were talking about that deliberateness with which your guest has made, there she is, has made a community at work.
Yeah.
A community within the workplace, and how important that was and how deliberately she was going about it. We thought that was really special.
What have you learned about the art of doing that, Elizabeth?
Well, I thought that today's conversation talked a lot about that, bringing the whole self to work, and then being attentive to what the teams need. We were talking during the breakout about just hearing laughter in the hallway, among other things, and the ability to do that, and the ability to create an environment where people feel valued, even under anger situations or stress situations. So I just thought that was really powerful.
I love what Marion was talking about with laughter, and that I think there's an association between laughter and learning teams and creativity. Marion, can you hear me now? Awesome. Now you're muted. If you can go to the lower left corner, that's where your mute button. Yeah.
I'm good. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Good. Perfect.
Marion, how was your breakout?
My breakout was great. They were very delightful. They gave me some insights. It's always good to get some feedback.
Yeah. What did you hear?
I heard from them that they really liked that I was trying to create this positive work environment in a surgical setting, which was a different environment for them.
Right.
And, right. And I just brought up to them that, as I mentioned earlier, yesterday was our busiest day and we brought a lunch in. That's the first time in over a year we brought food in that people could share. And there was just a lightness. for the whole facility. And when people were eating, it's just a taco lunch. Everybody was so happy. And that just feels good.
Yeah, quite an accomplishment. Anybody want to ask Marion a question? Or share an observation or something that her story got you thinking about?
I was very impressed with uh, the arc of the last 4 years of your personal life and the intersection of that with your work life. And I'm curious about how you used each of them to reinforce the other.
Well, that's a great question. That's really interesting because when I think back on it, this job saved me after I lost my house. It just gave me the structure and a focus to focus on something positive because there's so much destruction and you have so much to go through in having, you don't have electricity, dealing with all of this. So I just came to work and it rescued me there. Structure, something I enjoy doing, you can create something positive. And then I would say during COVID, during this time, work was also a great place for me to come. I always felt fortunate from day one that I was not working from home and I could continue to come to work because I had social contacts and we were still able to do work and again, try to produce, create great things here. I also feel on a personal side, this has also helped my marriage. During this time, when I felt like, and I just want to say, I've been a very fortunate person. I've had a very easy marriage up until the last 4 years. It was very easy. My husband was very compatible. We worked together. We got along. The last 4 years have been difficult, but I feel having this position, because people will say to me after my husband retired, why don't you retire? Well, I knew why I didn't retire. I knew he needed to find a life, but I also needed this. So it has been a good, it has been a good change, but I will say there will be a time when I will be ready to move on. For this period of time, it was nice having both, where sometimes I'm supporting myself, family, and sometimes work. I will say, I think I'm equalizing now. I think both are back into a good place.
Go ahead,
Thank you
Eric.
for that.
Yes, yes.
Hi, Marion. Thank you for your thoughts and comments. You got me thinking here, and I'm just kind of thinking out loud about this, but it seems to me that it depends on what you mean by fun to some extent, but fun and anxiety, there's an inverse relationship between fun and anxiety. That as you're having fun, anxiety goes down, or anxiety and fun wouldn't take up the same amount of energy or space. I think, and again, it's kind of a raw thought, but that's kind of the direction my head is taking with this, is that notion that fun doesn't allow for a lot of anxiety if it's done well. I don't know. Does that resonate at all, or do you find that to be true?
Well, yes, of course, because we know that if you're laughing, it decreases your anxiety and it builds a sense of community. And that's what we want. And I have to say, for me, I could use more of that. I think that is I might say that, but I think that is something I could add more into my life, both at home and at work. I think I could be a little lighter. And I'm hoping that's where I will go now that I see us coming out of COVID. But I did, it's so funny. A couple of days ago, I was talking to somebody and we started laughing. And that's something I realized that's kind of like a new feeling. I don't know how much I've been doing that the last year.
Mm-hmm.
It was very striking to hear you say that COVID was even more challenging than losing your entire home.
Oh,
It says a lot. And I think that's probably true for a lot of people, even outside of healthcare, which I think, your business was disrupted very substantially.
Well, yes, because you're asking people to come into an environment where they could be exposed. We had supply shortages, as you all know. We didn't have all the, protective gear we needed. We had to kind of make use of what we had, put new rules into place, and that creates a lot of anxiety. And as we know, the CDC came out almost every day with new guidelines, and this just doesn't create a good work environment. Constant change in a very stressful environment. And people are concerned for their health, for their lives, bringing this home to their families. So you really have to, it was a big challenge.
I don't know how it is, Marion, but you have always struck me as a very strong person. A lot of resilience. How'd that happen?
I think that could, okay, I think there's two things. Don't all laugh. All right. I think I went to Catholic school back when the days when, when it was pretty tough, you had to make it do. My first grade class, I had 72 students. Okay. So I was a baby boomer. There was a lot of us. So you have to find your way. I think that it was just how we grew up in New York then. I grew up in a very multicultural neighborhood. You had to learn to get along with people. And you had to build these skills as you went along. I think my parents probably helped me build this, but it's just the process of, where I've been.
Love that answer. Well, Marion and folks, thank you so much for being with us, Marion, and just being so open and so human. I think that comes naturally to you to get on an interview like this with strangers who you don't know, and to do that is it's no small thing, Marion.
No.
Thank you so much.
Well, thank
Thank
you. And
Yeah.
I appreciate everybody who showed up today and were willing to listen to what I had to say.
I just want to know one thing on this meditation point. We're doing a conference in October that I think is going to be very interesting. We have some excellent scientists coming. This is going to be posted on the Vermont Center for Family Studies website, so you'll be able to see if you want to learn more about how to do this. October 7th and 8th, join us for this discussion. We'll get two very interesting scientists, Arno Delorme and Fred Travis, talking about just fascinating topics about the human brain and higher potential and other things like that. And once again, let me mention that I think I'm going to have one show before this one, but this Mary Powell, she's very special. She's had a tremendous amount of national recognition for her leadership in the energy space. This company is very well known for being an extremely innovative green power company. It's the power company in Vermont, and they're doing all kinds of amazing things. And Mary's recently retired, so she gets to take a break and come on this show and talk to us about lessons learned. She's really an extraordinary person. And guess what, Marion? She also had her house burned down.
See?
Can you believe it?
No.
Yes. She was on the call earlier. I told her about this and she was like, oh my God, I can't believe that. So kudos and congratulations to resilience. Here's to resilience, folks.
Yay.
See you next time.
Thank you.
Thanks, Eric.
Wonderful, Marion. Wonderful.
I hope it worked out well and
It
people
did.
found
How'd you
it
feel about it?
interesting.